In this video, instead of looking at just one actor, we're going to look at 5 different actors and how they've approached just one role, the Joker. So as normal, we're going to ask you to do one thing before we start. Subscribe, it helps us a lot, and if you click that bell, you'll know when we've put a new video up. Ding dong. So the Joker is a really interesting acting challenge. How do you bring life to a comic book character? It was Sir John Gielgud who famously said that style is knowing what play you're in. And our first actor had to deal with a production that definitely had style. Cesar Romero's Joker was straight out of the pages of a comic book. He learnt his lines and didn't walk into the furniture and didn't trouble himself with thinking why his character behaved the way he did. He just did exactly what the comic book said he should do. Now there's nothing wrong with that. It's pantomime, vaudeville, slapstick, and exactly what that audience expected of the Joker. Which kind of leads us on to our next actor. Jack Nicholson, one of our greatest ever screen actors, not only had to face up to the audience expectations of the comic book character, he also knew that to many of them, Cesar Romero was the Joker. To deviate too much from that would give the actor a mountain to climb in trying to convince the audience to accept a new kind of Joker. It could have worked, but it could have failed, and that was too big a risk for a movie star like Nicholson. So his Joker is just an update really on Romero's. Now one of the things that all actors have to deal with is the input from the art department. We all sometimes have to wear some very strange costumes. But it seems that Nicholson's chosen method with this part, as he said to Michael Keaton, was to let the costumes do the acting. Nicholson's Joker is enjoyable and still knows it's a comic book character, although despite his protestations there are glimpses of something a bit more real in this performance. When you're as good as Jack Nicholson, you probably can't help yourself. By the time that Heath Ledger got to play the part, the comic book nature of the franchise had been exhausted. So the film's makers, the Nolans... No, not those ones! Decided to try a slightly more naturalistic style. So Heath Ledger had to find some real reason for his character's behaviour. Something that his character wanted. He plays what his character wants all the way through this film, as opposed to letting the comic or the costume dictate. And as a result, despite the fact that he is still clearly unrealistic, we never feel any disbelief in this character. Our antennae don't pick up on anything odd. What did he want? As an audience, we don't really need to know that. As long as the actor does, his performance will generally be compelling and we will be engaged in the character's journey. Many years ago, I played a real-life murderer who I got to meet. Now that was really difficult because I couldn't just say, oh well, I'm a murderer, I'm a bad person, I'm going to play a bad person, because that would have been rubbish. Instead, I played someone who grew up watching gangster movies, and someone that didn't want to be seen as weak in front of his friends. And when you do that, as Heath Ledger does with his Joker, you can make even comic book characters utterly believable. Jared Leto got a very mixed reaction to his performance as the Joker, but I really liked it. He experimented, and that is what all good art is built around. When Johnny Depp first turned up on the set of Pirates of the Caribbean, doing Jack Sparrow as an elderly Rolling Stone, the rest of the cast thought he was messing around, and that his real performance would be much more traditional, a much more traditional pirate, but he carried on playing it the same way. He wasn't messing around, he was experimenting, and that experiment worked. Jared Leto's drug-addled Joker had many glimpses of reality in it, but it was perhaps not what the audience was expecting after Heath Ledger's version. Maybe it was an experiment that failed, or maybe in a few years' time we'll look back on it without comparing it to Ledger and see what a good performance it was. And so on to Joaquin Phoenix, who seems to have completed the Joker's journey from the ink of a comic book into the real world. His performance is totally naturalistic. Everything about it is real. It's a complicated, nuanced portrait of the human condition. With the Joker, you always know the end result. But with this production, the filmmakers have got there in a way that is logical, believable, and brilliant. So there's two things going on here, and at first they appear juxtaposed to each other. Everything that we do is theatre, whether that's film, television, radio, stage. It's all theatre. Artifice, pretend, made up, all of it. So it doesn't matter if you're playing a comic book supervillain or a real life supervillain. Your interpretation of it is by definition made up. Whether that's made up like Cesar Romero or made up like Joaquin Phoenix depends, as Gielgud said, on the style of the production you're in. I would argue that it is always the actor's job to hold a mirror up to life, to find a way somehow to reflect the human condition that we all experience. What all of these actors have found in very different ways is a character whose rejection and isolation from society has made him want to take revenge on those who have wronged him. If you want to find out more about being a professional actor, you can always subscribe to the Acting Academy. You get your first 2 weeks for free, and if you don't like it, there's nothing to pay after that. Give it a go and see what you think.
Train to be an actor with the Acting Academy, and not only will you get great online lessons in acting technique, art and business from fantastic teachers, but you can also have one-on-one Skype mentoring tutorials. And when you finish the course, the opportunity to get an agent and be noticed by casting directors at our fabulous graduation showcase. And what's more, you can try it for 14 days completely free. You'll get lessons in stagecraft, voice, stage combat, movement, Shakespeare, camera technique, Stanislavski, and much, much more. Everything that you need to become a professional actor. So register for your free trial now and start your journey today.